Hello and welcome to Allot on Air. During the next 10 minutes or so, we'll be meeting with industry experts to discuss the hottest trends in telecom, cybersecurity, and network intelligence.
I'm Barry Spielman, Product Marketing Director for Security at Allot. And joining us today in the Allot on Air studio is Teresa Cottam, Chief Analyst at Omnisperience, an independent market research firm based in the UK. Teresa, so glad to have you with me here today.
Thank you, Barry. It's lovely to talk to you.
Great, looking forward to it. So in today's podcast, we're putting a spotlight on a new category that Omnisperience has defined for connected customer services offered by CSPs. So Teresa, let's get right into it. First of all, could you tell us a little bit about your background in the telecom industry and about Omnisperience?
Hi, my name's Teresa Cottam, and I'm the Chief Analyst here at Omnisperience. And I was trying to figure out how many years I've been doing this for, and I'm embarrassed to say it's probably over 25 years now of being an industry analyst. I started out as a management consultant when I was quite young, actually, and I had an assignment to work for a network equipment provider who then got bought by Ericsson, and that's how I kind of got started on this whole telecoms game. But my first job was at Ovum, and I was there for about 5 years. And then I moved to a specialist BSS/OSS consultancy where I headed up research called Chorleywood. We got bought by Informer, as everyone seems to do. And after a year, everyone gets bought by Informer. And then I went to Analyst Mason for a stint, and eventually I set up my own firm. And there's a really good reason to do that, because what we wanted to do was to actually be able to have the freedom to go and look at new emerging things and stuff that was not on the, maybe the traditional analyst map. We also wanted to be far more business centric in our analysis. So rather than just looking at technologies and comparing them, which is a very worthy thing to do, we wanted to really look at the telecoms business and how we make money. That's always interesting, isn't it? And part of that's our customers. Keeping them happy ultimately is the way of making more money, and not spending so much on happy customers. You spend less money supporting happy customers than you do unhappy customers. So that's kind of important as well.
Very true. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the new category that Omnisperience has defined. So what is CCAPS? What does it stand for? And why is it different from other service categories?
So CCAPS stands for Connected Customer Assurance and Protection Services. And basically, it's a new kind of value-added service for telecom service providers. Let me just dig into that a little bit. When we say telecoms, we use that in a very wide sense. So it's really network technology agnostic. It doesn't matter if you're mobile or fixed line or cable, doesn't matter. We use telecoms to mean all of these things. And increasingly, telecom service providers, in any case, are multi-service. So it's not so relevant. It's a service because you're not being asked to, install things, and it's something that's being provided by your service provider. And this kind of value-added service, we call this a network plus service. It's something that's very closely related to the network itself and where the service provider can really add value. So this is really important, Barry, because, people get confused and they say, how is this different to traditional cybersecurity?
Right.
So who is providing it is the first point of differentiation. If you think you're providing this kind of service, but you're a third-party vendor and you're providing it directly to the customers, then it's not a CCAPS service. If you are providing it via the telecom service provider, you're providing the telecom service provider with technology, which they then sell on to their end customer, then yes, that is a CCAPS service. So who provides it is one of the first and most important points. The second is who it's being targeted at. So this does not replace enterprise cybersecurity, but it sits alongside it. It's targeted at small and medium-sized enterprises, households, and individuals. And that's important because that has consequences in terms of how the service is going to be provided, what you're going to be providing, and what you're going to charge for it. It's going to be a subscription service. It's going to be reasonably modestly priced, shall we say. So it's a very different business model to enterprise cybersecurity. And I think the third point that's really important to think about is the extent of the service. So there are different types of technology within this category. that the service provider can put together into a solution for the end customer. And we think that this combines cybersecurity, typical cybersecurity type services, as well as things like service controls. So you're giving the customer the ability to personalize and control what they're using, as well as the assurance side. So that's kind of things that helps, ensure they have good network experience, good network quality. It's putting all these different pieces together that really creates the CCAPS service.
All right, very interesting. But let's dive a little bit more now, maybe on one of the sides of it. So why is this important now, looking at it from the CSP perspective?
Well, going back to money, immediately the first thing is all about money. So this is a really promising new revenue stream for service providers. And that's very, very important at the moment because their traditional revenues are stale and their new exciting revenues are still a little bit further off. And this is coming to them at a time when they really need to build some extra value for themselves. This is an easy, readily available revenue stream for them, something they can do now. We have a saying in the UK, you don't just want jam tomorrow, you want jam today. This is jam today. This is something that you can deliver very, very quickly and you can start to make money out of. But beyond that, it's also a very strategic service for them. Because if customers do not enjoy or they don't feel safe enjoying the connected experience, then you can't build additional revenues in the future. So this is a foundational piece for future revenues as well.
Okay, makes total sense. So what kind of vendors are interested in the CCAPS landscape? Or how does a company know if they fit the description of a CCAPS vendor?
Okay, that's a really good question. So the first is we looked at this. You have to be delivering via the telco channels. If you think you have technology that fits in the space, that's the first question that you should be asking yourself. But in terms of the technology categories, it's a range of things, as I said. It includes cybersecurity technology that is aimed at small businesses, households, and individuals. It includes things like parental controls or business controls, so that kind of control software. It moves into things like, ID protection, anti-fraud even, and assurance services. So if you've got something like smart home, you've got Wi-Fi optimization for inside the home, those kind of services fit within this category as well. What they should be, though, are software services that can be delivered by the service provider and assembled by the service provider, and they should be priced in a way that is affordable for the target groups.
Okay, so I have one last question before I let you go. What is the market for CCAPS services?
Well, we think the market looks really promising. It's definitely jam today, not jam tomorrow. So we're saying that in the next 2 or 3 years, we think by 2023, 80% of service providers will have rolled out this kind of offer.
80?
80. We're seeing so much activity at the moment with the top service providers in all world regions, but it's particularly hot in North America and Europe. We're starting to see take up in Asia, and then it will go through into countries like Africa. There, the business model's a little bit more challenging because they're prepaid, so they've got to figure out what they do about this. They definitely need a lot of the components of this kind of service, but they've got to figure out, the service providers there, how they can deliver it. We think that they can make, reasonably good money. So if you look at typical ARPUs for customers around the world, they obviously vary, but, over here in the UK, you're looking at something like £17, $20, that kind of area. And CCAPS can add a really nice uplift to the ARPU that you're making, somewhere around 20-25% uplift, which is, not to be sniffed at by anybody. And a lot of that is profit because of the way it's delivered. You've already got the billing relationship. You're just adding on another value-adding service. You may, you have to pay the vendor that's providing the technology, but there's really good profit margins to be had here for service providers that go into this market.
Excellent, good stuff. So I want to thank you for joining me, Teresa Cottam, Chief Analyst at Omnispirience. Thank you so much for joining me today.
That's it for today's episode. Thanks for listening. You can get more information about network intelligence and security solutions for service providers and enterprises on our website at allot.com. Subscribe to this podcast to make sure you hear about new trends and technologies on the next episode of Allot on Air.